I think people in Bangladesh are very aware of climate change. Both the term itself seems to me to be very well known, but also I think people are already beginning to feel what they perceive to be the effects of climate change in terms of temperature changes and weather changes. I think what's changed over the last few years that I've been here is the importance with which people are seeing local solutions to those problems, and the way that people are starting to come together to help themselves adapt to the problems that they're facing. I would say the first thing is not to use the word climate. So our way of approaching it is maybe different from an academic approach, but I think the two are valid in that I think it's important that we use language that people can understand, that we talk about food and water and weather. I think it's also important that at policy level and in the realms of academia, that we start to listen more to the people who are really feeling the effects of climate change or will do. And I think we need to stop being so technocratic in terms of the discourse and the dialogue that we're having at policy level, and make sure that the voices of those real people are heard very well. I think the policy discourse around climate change tends to start with science. And I think for people who are affected by climate change, that's no use. What we need to do is start listening to and talking the same language as the people who are living climate change now and will be in the future. I think the same as with any other communication, and that's that you start with your audience. You absolutely have to understand who you're talking to before you go anywhere near making anything. And if you understand what makes them tick, what motivates them, or what stops them from acting, then you've got a much better chance of being able to communicate well with them. I think you also need to make your communications accessible. You need to think about the technology that's available, the way that people interact with communication in your audience, and make sure that you're using channels that work for them. And I also think you need to make it entertaining. So people aren't going to listen to a communication which sounds dull or boring or irrelevant to them. It needs to be something which can grab them and make sure that they're entertained as well as informed or educated. So I think one of the things that this project is trying to do, which is really impressive, is to reflect its research back to the communities that were the subject of the research. And obviously doing so in an entertaining, creative way is likely to be much more successful than trying to go down to a slum and read somebody an academic paper. That won't work. I think the big benefit it brings is validation of the findings of the research, which then mean that it's much easier to get policy traction and encourage people to take that research seriously outside the academic sphere.